4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. I'm told today that there will be people joining from Malaysia and Singapore. So welcome to everybody. Lovely that you can join me on what here is a reasonable Saturday morning. Okay, the topic for today that I've chosen is basically to address roots, why they're good to eat, basically. Our thing is take root with new possibilities. So what we want to do is to show you very simple things you can do with root vegetables. And there are already many recipes on our online site, organicdelivery.sg, where you can make soups, or you can make salads, or you can make even the roast vegetables that we are doing today. So Zensin Retail Outlet very kindly sent me a box via Uncle. Here it is. This is one of our organic boxes. And this time, it's got a whole load of root vegetables in. I've used some of them already, so you'll see the packets are open. You will get new ones if you order the organic box. Okay, this week I haven't used the kohlrabi because we actually used it last week. Okay, technically it's not a root, but it operates as one for cooking. These are our beautiful purple sweet potatoes. They come in from Thailand. You can tell the Thai products usually because they will have a black packet. And the purple colouring in the sweet potatoes is actually anthocyanin, which is a very beneficial antioxidant. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Also coming in from Thailand, these are, in my opinion, the best potatoes for mashed potato. There's a recipe on the website. They're also wonderful in curries because they soak up the gravy very, very nicely. So mealy Thai potatoes. And, of course, our beautiful orange Thai carrots. Here are beetroot. This time you can see they're not from Thailand. They're actually coming in from Australia. There are certain products that Mr. Thai has especially chosen to bring in from Australia because the taste and the quality is much better. And here is possibly the most enormous parsnip that I've seen since my dad grew one in his garden. This was actually nearly 700 grams of parsnip here. I've only taken some of it to use in the baked vegetables. Then onion is actually counted also as a root vegetable, as is garlic, as is ginger, and of course our other friend turmeric, which we've also talked about, is another wonderful root vegetables. So the idea is basically to give you some information on why the root vegetables are so healthy for you and to show you a few things you can do very, very easily with them. Okay, so recently a plant-based diet has been the recommended diet. More and more people are suggesting it's actually very beneficial for human health as well as for the health of the planet. And there's been a recent study which is still ongoing in Europe, examining the relationship between diet and common chronic diseases like colon cancer, diabetes type 2, and the various forms of cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke, all this kind of thing. And they have established that there's a 13% lower risk of diabetes type 2, for example, in participants that ate the most root vegetables. Now, we've talked before about soil being the foundation for healthy vegetables. If you're growing vegetables in a well-husbanded, organic, biodynamic soil, you're going to have a very healthy vegetable, okay? And the root vegetables in particular are very, very rich in nutrients because they grow in that soil, okay? So the soil is the foundation for the healthy plant, and the root vegetables you could consider are the root of all goodness for our health, okay? So they contain large levels of soluble and insoluble fiber, and I'm sure people have told you before that it's that kind of fiber that helps regulate the gut and feed the gut bacteria, the good bacteria that is, and also help with removing things like excess cholesterol out of the body, okay? So they are an unadulterated source of complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are the preferred carbohydrates to use if you have diabetes type 2. They also have a very good cross-section of antioxidants, and we'll go a little bit into that. But first I want to show you what I did this morning. I prepared some of the vegetables and I've just baked them in the oven for about 30 minutes before turning them and then baking them for another 10. So I'll just let you see them. There's the tray. You can see all the beautiful colors. We talk about eating a rainbow. Well, this is obviously part of the rainbow. We have red onions, the purple sweet potatoes. We've got beetroot there. I also roasted as an experiment part of the beautiful purple radish that we had last week, the one that we pickled, okay? Once again, greetings to everybody. I'm told that there will be people joining us from Malaysia and from Singapore. So welcome everybody. We're talking about root vegetables, taking root with new possibilities. Why are we eating roots? What is it that's so good about them? So we just start off, all those beautiful colors usually are indicative of powerful antioxidants. They're the protection that the plant creates for itself, and they are also protective of us. Okay, that's the 11 o'clock bell, so we're going to start properly now. So there's our baked vegetables. Very, very simply, all I've done is to wash the vegetables, portion them into roughly equal sizes because we want them to cook equally. You can see there's also purple morado garlic. Everywhere you see purple, there is a beneficial antioxidant. Sometimes it's anthocyanin, sometimes it's something called betalain, but we'll get into that later. I'm just going to put these into a bowl. What happens when you roast the vegetables is you actually concentrate the flavor, and you also, to a certain extent, concentrate the sweetness. So these are vegetables that people should really enjoy eating because they have very delicious flavors and quite a lot of sweetness. You'll see when I show you the tray that a certain amount of caramelization has happened. So I think if you see the tray, you can actually see. Hi, Terry. Nice to see you. I think if you see the tray, you can see little brown bits as well as the purple bits. And that's where the vegetables have caramelized. The sweetness in the vegetables has been caramelized. You can also say the little drips of the olive oil. I've done this in olive oil, just a little. Just toss them in olive oil before baking. So here you are. We have beetroot, yeah, carrot, the orange. We've got potatoes, we've got parsnips, we've got radish, we've got the red onion and the garlic. And it smells amazing. I'm still waiting. Hi, Belinda. Nice to see you. I'm still waiting for people to come up with the technology that's actually going to be able to pass smells as well as sound waves. I mean, you know, in the future. So this is roast vegetables. Roast very simply in olive oil. 30 minutes, then turn them, then another 10 minutes. And the temperature that I did it at is 200 degrees centigrade because I want a little bit of caramelization. Hi, Ella. And I also want to have the vegetables nice and soft inside, so there's a contrast of textures. So there's a certain little crunchiness, I think you can see. That one is nice and browned, and the outside will be crunchy. And the inside, nice and soft. And that's also very interesting because it's taken on the flavors of the garlic that I added. This is potato, by the way, with the skin because it's organic potato. Because of course you can eat the skins with organic vegetables. All you need to do is wash them. If they're dirty, then all you do is scrape the dirt off. It does smell amazing. And yeah, awesome. You get all the beneficial antioxidants in the skin because remember that's how the plants protect themselves. They actually put everything sort of into their outer layer, like our own skin is very resistant to certain things. So let's have a look again. The root of all goodness. Plant-based diet is becoming recognized as one of the best diets for health and, of course, the planet because it doesn't pollute in the way that industrially farmed livestock pollute. There isn't the excess of nitrates, and if it's farmed organically, of course, there is not the excess of nitrates from the artificial fertilizers. Living is all about balance. You have to have a balance between all your elements. You do need some nitrates, of course, but when you have too much in the water table, it really affects everybody's health. So, as I was mentioning before, there's been a large ongoing European study examining the relationship between diet and common chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease, which cause stroke and heart attack. Colon cancer is another big one, and of course diabetes type 2. And what they've established is that there's a 13% lower risk of something like diabetes type 2 for participants that ate the most root vegetables. And we'll go on later to discuss actually, what does that mean, the most root vegetables? We've talked about the soil being the foundation for the healthy plant. And in organic biodynamic farming, the farmer husbands the soil. So he is a good partner for the soil. He doesn't simply monocrop. He doesn't grow one thing in the same place year after year, which attracts then the pests, which necessitates then the pesticides. He rotates the crops around, making sure that there is time for the land to lie fallow. He will introduce things like green manure, compost, and all these things. Hi, Agnes. Nice to see you. Thanks for your support. And the soil itself is a complete microcosm. When you start unbalancing it by putting in artificial fertilizers, which usually would be things like potassium, nitrogen, and phosphate, you throw the balance out and you're not replacing the micronutrients. So a good biodynamic soil replaces the balance. It becomes a cycle and it rotates, and the soil health is also dependent on the microorganisms that live in the soil, just like we are dependent on the microorganisms that live in our gut. Hi, Irene, nice to see you. So soil, of course, is the foundation for the plant, and the root vegetables are the foundation for our health because they are especially rich in soluble and insoluble fiber. They also contain antioxidants, as we talked about earlier, the bright colors, and of course, the different nutrients that come in. And they help with their fiber to balance levels of fat and sugar in the blood, and they also improve the gut health. And this, of course, reduces the risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and bowel cancer. They are an unadulterated source of complex carbohydrates, which means that the sugar is released slowly into the bloodstream. And they also contain very, very beneficial nutrients. And experts are now suggesting that their gut-friendly properties make them the best foundation for a healthy diet, and they should supply as much as 50% of our nutrient intake. And that's very interesting because Singapore is in a situation whereby we can import things from all over the world. Indeed, we need to import things from all over the world. So bringing things from colder climates like parsnips, beetroot, and seasonally things like celeriac, turnips, and swede, we actually benefit from that variety. I'd like to talk first about beetroot. I steamed beetroot a couple of sessions ago to pop into the child's lunchbox, the bento boxes that we were doing. Part of the reason for that is that it's sweet, so generally children will like it. The type that Mr. Tai has selected doesn't have the strong earthy taste that many of them do. So it's a nice light sweetness. You can eat it raw. I used to grow it in my garden in Germany, and we would grate it raw, and we would have it with grated carrot, kohlrabi, just a little bit of olive oil, pepper and salt, and that would be it. So that's a very healthy way to eat it, but you can also bake it as we have done here. Of course, you can juice it as well. Beetroot is very interesting because it not only has the fiber, which actually locks the sugars in, so it doesn't spike the blood sugar at all. It also has 3 different compounds. It has betalain, which is the purple color, which is like the anthocyanin in blueberries, and it contributes to the beautiful color. This helps to decrease oxidative stress, and it breaks down the toxins that your body takes in, ready for elimination. So it's known as a purifier of the liver, which of course is the source, the pool, the reservoir, if you like, of the blood and of the blood itself. So betalain, an antioxidant which is really beneficial for helping to get rid of toxins. which, if you're living in an urban environment, is something that you can't avoid. So please add the beetroot into your diet. Once a week should be fine in whatever form you like it. It's fantastic. They also contain betaine, which is an amino acid which helps reduce the accumulation of fat in the liver. If anybody suffers from fatty liver, then this is a very useful thing again to include in your diet. Betaine also helps to lower the buildup of homocysteine in the body, which is a substance that actually is thought to be responsible for heart attacks and strokes. So again, it reduces the risk of those diseases because the betaine actually prevents the buildup of homocysteine. Other members of the beetroot family, believe it or not, are quinoa and spinach. So they also have high levels of betaine. That's the Chenopodium family, if you want to know the family name. I'm not quite sure where that came from. I think it had to do with the leaf formation. So Chenopodium family, quinoa, spinach, beetroot, all have pretty high levels of betaine, which is very useful in preventing stroke and heart attack. Then the last thing that the beetroot has is nitrates. Okay, nitrates are converted into nitric acid in the body, which relaxes and dilates blood vessels. So this helps to lower blood pressure. A lot of people actually take beetroot juice when they have high blood pressure because it is known to be one of the most effective natural things in lowering the blood pressure. So the nitrates improve the blood flow, and it's thought to also improve athletic performance. So I had one mum asking for beetroot juice for her daughter, who actually was a special athlete. So beetroot, very, very good for athletes. I'm just going to close the door because my friends are flying again. I think they're getting ready for National Day. We've got some special dishes also for you for National Day, some red and white dishes, so we'll be introducing them later on in August. So that was my friend the beetroot. As I say, I used to grow them myself. It was one of my mother's favourite vegetables, so I guess I learned at an early age to eat beetroot without too many protests. The next one I'd like to talk about is carrots. There's the beautiful orange carrot. So the carrots have, of course, a high content of carotenoid. Well, what else would it be called? They're a member of the Umbelliferae family, which are a family of plants that have flowers that are in the shape of umbrellas. So Umbelliferae, umbrellas, things like carrots and also parsnips, parsley, all these kind of things belong to that family. And the carrots, the carotenoids, of course, are renowned for supporting eye health in particular, and they're very, very beneficial to protect from free radical damage. So they're very useful to protect against things that would cause cancer. Hello, hello. Will the nutritional benefits of beetroot be greatly reduced when I cook beetroot soup versus drinking beetroot juice? If you're going to have freshly pressed beetroot juice, that's definitely going to be more beneficial for you. There still will be very beneficial things in the beetroot soup, and you will find a recipe using beetroots in soup on our website. That's organicdelivery.sg. So it's a question, again, of balance. You probably would benefit very much from having a weekly glass of raw, fresh beetroot juice, but you will also benefit from having baked or steamed beetroot in your diet. There's a recipe also on the website for beetroot and orange salad where the beetroots have been steamed. So yes, a little bit of raw is definitely good, and juices allow the body to absorb things very easily, but you must be careful what you put in the juice, that it isn't something that is going to spike the blood sugar. Beetroot, I think, is pretty okay, even though it's sweet. But some things, like, for example, apples, you do have to be careful because there's a very high fructose content. So eat both or drink both. So thanks, Cherry, very much for the question. Very good question. Appreciate the participation. If anybody else has questions, I'll be happy to do what I can to answer them from what I know. So back to carrots again. The bright orange color is the carotenoid, usually beta carotene. There is also lutein and xanthin in them, which are very beneficial for eye health. And as I mentioned before, also protecting against free radical damage from oxidation. Most welcome, most welcome. Any questions? I'm very happy to think about them, and if I can, I will answer them. And if I can't, I will get back to you on Facebook with hopefully a reasonable answer. Thank you very much, Cherry. Appreciate it. So the next one I would like to talk about, next root vegetable that isn't a root vegetable, is the kohlrabi. And we were eating it raw last week, and I think that's good in small doses. You can also roast it. I didn't this time. It's also known as German turnip, but it isn't actually a root vegetable. It just looks like one. It's a member of the cabbage family, so it's a cruciferous vegetable, and it has the isothiocyanates that, again, protect against cancer. So, again, something interesting that we're now growing up in Malaysia to add to your diet. It's a different form of cabbage. In my opinion, it's good to have some form of cabbage every week in your diet, whether it's radish, whether it's kohlrabi, whether it's the Asian leafy greens, the English cabbage, the Chinese cabbage. Some form of cabbage is going to be very beneficial, both because of the isothiocyanates and also because of the fiber in those vegetables. So kohlrabi, very, very nice, mild flavor. You can just eat it raw, as we were last week. Okay. Another member of the cabbage family, the brassicas or the cruciferous vegetables, is the radish. As I said, this time, yes, I don't know if you can see it, but that's the purple-skinned bilobor. So that's the purple radish. It's even better for you than the white radish, which is well known in Chinese cooking. The bilobor goes into your soups. The Japanese grate it raw and also simmer it. It's a fantastic vegetable and full of the cancer protective chemicals. Okay, so again, they think that it improves blood vessel elasticity because of a substance called glucoraphanin. Okay, so that's a bit of a mouthful. Just remember, your radish is good for you, whatever form it comes in, generally speaking, because it helps you to digest fats. We have a little bit of olive oil on. I don't call that heavy fat, but if you're going to have a pork knuckle, like the Germans do, then you want to have some nice thinly sliced raw radish. Or if you're going to eat the oily fish, the mackerel, like the Japanese do, then they add a little bit of grated raw radish. I've been watching a wuxia television series, and as part of the martial arts training, they learn to chop radish. I'm definitely not as good as they are, but apparently radish is also very, very beneficial if you're practicing martial arts. And that was an experiment. I haven't tasted it roasted before, and it's actually very delicious. So I'm very, very pleased with that. So yes, you can bake the Milo ball. By baking it, of course, you increase the warming properties. I was told by my Chinese physician that I'm now too old and I can't eat so much raw. I must, in fact, eat cooked food. And again, that's about balance. As my digestive fire is depleted, so then I need to be careful that I don't eat too many cooling things. So that was a lesson for me a few weeks ago. So the next thing we have is the parsnip, that enormous parsnip that I showed you earlier. This incredible thing here. This is very, very good for pregnant women and for growing children. This is because it really supports the division of cells and the central nervous system and the nervous system as well. And it's very important for the synthesis of DNA, which of course is the core code in each cell in our body. So parsnips are related to carrots, but they have a sweet, nutty flavor, and they're considered nutrient dense. Hi, Mimi. Mimi makes some of our wonderful noodles up in Malaysia, and she takes 20% organic pureed vegetables. Sweet potatoes would be one example. Carrots would be another example of our root vegetables. And then she makes them into the most fantastic noodles, which we actually showed you last week. There are 12 different kinds of noodles she makes now. And I have to say they're the best noodles I've ever eaten. So heartily recommend that. If you can't get your kids to eat actual vegetables, get them to eat Mimi's noodles, because they won't even know they're eating vegetables. So back to parsnips, nutrient dense, high in folate. Okay. Sweet, nutty flavor. For me, these are probably my favorite roast vegetables, and you'll find a recipe again for roast parsnips on organicdelivery.sg. Very, very simple. I roasted them with the morado garlic, like we have here, and also rosemary. Yeah, they're still good. Okay, now I want to go on and talk about potatoes, because potatoes have a bad press. And again, technically, they're not a root, they're a tuber, but white skin on potatoes, and remember, because they're organic potatoes, you can cook them in their skins, contain fewer calories, more fiber, more iron, and more vitamin C and folate and B6 than cooked pasta or brown rice. Now, it's interesting to me that potatoes have such a bad press, but I think that's because many of the potatoes we eat are in the form of French fries, which have been cooked in unhealthy fats. Or they're in the form of chips, same deal. Or they're in the form of Pringles, which of course are processed potatoes. So those are not healthy, but the potatoes themselves, especially if they're steamed, are really healthy. And I want to show you a dish with that later. Hi, Suchin, nice to see you. Thanks for your support. So what I've done this time is I've used this wonderful machine behind here to steam a couple of the vegetables. I've steamed the potatoes. I think you can see it's skin on. Skin on. And I've steamed our French beans, organic French beans. And then I've chopped a little bit of red onion with the anthocyanin and a little bit of cucumber for the crunch. And then all I'm going to do because I now have a salad with interesting textures as well as a good combination of nutrients. I'm just going to use a little kefir as a dressing. Remember, kefir is particularly good for the gut. So the beneficial bacteria and yeasts in the kefir are also going to go well with the fiber and the nutrients in the potato and provide you with a really nice cooked and raw dish. Okay, so that's a potato salad. I'll just double check, see the combination. Very nice combination of the aromatic cucumber and a little bit of the bite from the red onion. The red onion isn't as strong as the brown onion, and it also has the added benefit of the anthocyanin. Then the potatoes cooked in their skins, steamed, and the French beans also steamed. Very, very fast in this machine. For the potatoes, I wanted to make sure I was cooking them whole, so I cooked them for about 30 minutes at 100. And the beans, of course, much less, probably about 10 minutes. So, potatoes, they actually supply more blood pressure lowering and bone friendly potassium than any other vegetable. You want Thermomix recipes. Some of them on the website are already Thermomix recipes, Cherry. So a lot of the soup recipes, I use the Thermomix because in my opinion, there's nothing better for a thick animal soup than the Thermomix. So you'll see that there are pumpkin recipes on there, there's onion recipes on there, all for the soups made from Zensin's organic vegetables. So back again to potatoes. So pressure lowering and bone friendly potassium, the potatoes have more than any other vegetable. If you have kidney problems, of course, you have to be careful because it's something with high potassium. But for those of us that are still okay, it's a very, very useful vegetable to add to the diet. And the interesting thing that I really want to pass is if you boil potatoes, as I have done, in their skins and then put them into the fridge, you have an increase of what they call resistant starch. Now, resistant starch is something that's very beneficial for the gut bacteria, and it doesn't put weight on because you can't digest it. Only your gut microbiome bacteria are going to be able to digest it. So it's actually a low-calorie food, boiled potatoes. Boiled, not chips, not fries. Boiled potatoes, you boil and you put in the fridge. It increases the amount of resistant starch, and it actually can help you in a weight-losing diet. So very interesting. Okay, and now on to our sweet potatoes. Where are my sweet potatoes? I cut them into different shapes so I could recognize them. Here we are. Okay, so this is our purple sweet potato. This is not betalain. This is anthocyanin again. Oh, just we're joined by Belinda from, she's actually in Australia at the moment. She was one of my interns back in 2014, and she's now a bona fide nutritionist doing a master's over there. She says she completely agrees. Potatoes are good to include in the diets, and it just gets a bad rep because of the cooking methods used. So boil your potatoes, your organic potatoes in your skins, put them in the fridge, and you will have a nice form of resistant starch that will help you feel full and not put on weight. Okay, back to sweet potatoes, which are totally unrelated to potatoes. We have, of course, orange sweet potatoes, again with the beta carotene, the carotenoids. And we also have the purple sweet potatoes, which they sent me in this organic box, which have anthocyanin. Of course, anthocyanin is the very beneficial antioxidant protecting against free radical damage, which we need in an urban environment. I've, again, cooked them in the skins. I've washed and scrubbed the skins, and if there were any nasty bits, of course, I cut them out. And then I've kept what was good about the skin, and of course, that's the highest level of antioxidants that there are, okay? When you bake sweet potatoes, it does slightly increase the GI. So if you are somebody who suffers from diabetes, steaming or boiling your vegetables in their skin is probably a better way to go. Sweet potatoes are a very, very rich source of plant nutrients that are anti-inflammatory, and they have a high amount of fiber again, fiber being good for diabetes, cardiovascular problems, and colon cancer. So what people are saying from the study is the more fiber you get going through, the healthier things are going to be. Okay, so that was our beautiful purple sweet potato. We do sometimes have something in called celeriac, which people have said looks like an alien. It is somewhat ugly. It tastes like celery. I don't have one here today because it's not seasoned for them, but that's also a ridiculously nutritious root with a lot of B vitamins and vitamin C, and of course your fiber. So that's something to look out for. You can actually have beautiful baked celeriac fingers, like you can do sweet potato fingers, baked fingers in the oven as a substitute if you really can't kick the chips habit. Okay, so that's something to look forward for. Okay, so we don't have Jerusalem artichokes at the moment. We don't have Swedes and turnips. Something I have noticed about both Swedes and turnips is, and this is from my father growing them in his garden, they need a frost, otherwise they are quite bitter. And I remember sitting with my brother one time. My brother was very stubborn and he would not eat what he would not eat. And the Swede had not had a frost and it was extremely bitter. And I was really fed up because I wanted to go out and play. So I ate mine and it was horribly bitter. And he was not going to eat his, so I just grabbed a handful and ate it, and we both went out. So Swedes and turnips without a frost can be very bitter. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to talk about, of course, is the onion family. Again, I would not typically think of them as roots, but they are one of the things that I like to use in my cooking as much as possible. A lot of you have heard me talking about garlic, stir-fried Asian leafy greens with garlic. To me, is just the best vegetable. And you need to be eating those Asian leafy greens every week. And if you eat meat, hi Shamin, nice to see you. If you eat meat, then you need to be having it stir-fried with garlic, okay? So Asian leafy greens, stir-fried with garlic, and you can eat meat. I do advocate eating as many vegetables as possible, but I am still a meat eater. I like that savory umami taste, especially from a roast. My sister does the most incredible Sunday roast with all these baked vegetables, but something maybe like a chicken or a piece of pork or beef in the middle of the vegetables so that they actually cook in the meat juices. But of course, if you're eating meat, then you're going to need the onion family to help you digest and break down the toxins from the meat. We don't want the components of the meat to stay in the gut very long because we are omnivores. We're not really carnivores. A carnivore has a very short digestive system. Herbivores have an incredibly long digestive system, and we are kind of somewhere in between. We don't want toxic things hanging around in our gut, which is why it's so beneficial to eat these root vegetables that have the fiber, that act like a broom to actually sweep out the intestines. The onion family, of course, has the allicin, which is thought to be, again, cancer protective. Garlic in particular is very beneficial for bringing down high blood pressure and for helping cope with bad cholesterol. Okay, so that's the last thing in my baked vegetable tray. I'm just checking to make sure I've told you about everything. Okay, so the onion family, again, something that I would heartily recommend that you eat on a regular basis. So the organic box that you saw here, there are various forms that you can have. And you can also ask our very, very kind retail staff to not put certain things in and to make sure certain things are in. So if you have a favorite vegetable, you can say, please make sure you give me this. Or if you have something that you're actually intolerant of, like it's an actual physical intolerance. Some people, for example, are intolerant of nightshade family. So potatoes, tomatoes, brinjal, aubergine, capsicum, chilies, all these things cause problems in their body. If it's something like that, please do put that on your order, because we want you to be healthy. I heartily recommend eating as much a variety of vegetables as possible, and you can do that in the form of the various boxes that you'll find on organicdelivery.sg. There's a Western box for angmos, there's an Oriental box with the fabulous Asian leafy greens in, and there's varying other things. There's a steamboat box, which is also very nice if you want to share steamboat with your family. And you can just order them and add in the comments particular wishes or particular problems, and our wonderful shop retail staff will actually cope with that and do their utmost to support you in your journey to health. So remember, your root vegetables are the foundation for health. 50% of your diet could be very beneficial if you had more root vegetables going in. So thank you very much for joining me, everybody. It's about time to leave you. Really appreciate all those people that popped in. Thank you very, very much. Have a healthy day. And yeah, do WhatsApp us if you want any more info. If you have any questions, just leave them for me on the Facebook. And as I say, I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks again. Bye-bye.